Welcome to Design to Sell, the podcast where interior design and real estate development come together to create spaces that move markets. I'm Caitlin, your host, here to share the strategies behind designs that don't just look good, they sell. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Design to Sell, the podcast that helps real estate investors, flippers, and designers turn style into serious profit. I'm Caitlin, and today's episode is exciting and so important in your investment journey. Have you ever had a contractor delay your project, surprise you with hidden fees, change orders, or even just disappear altogether? You're not alone. This happens to everyone at some point. And if it doesn't, then you just don't know you're being taken advantage of. The unfortunate truth is that contractors remain the number one reason for blown budgets and missed deadlines in both flips and renovations. So today I'm going to teach you how to create a foolproof finish schedule, stay 2 steps ahead of your contractor, and the absolute most important, protect your assets from shady contractors or poor project management. We're going to cover insider tips, facts from the industry, and my personal own hard-earned lessons. So let's get to it. Why you need to own your finish schedule. I'm going to be blunt here. This entire episode's going to be quite blunt, actually. But if you don't own the finish schedule on your project, your contractor will. He will make decisions without you that are not what you want, which will then in turn make it to where the contractor has to come back. And that's where you get in trouble with change orders and delayed times. A finish schedule is the roadmap of your project. It spells out exactly what goes where, when it needs to arrive, and how it should be installed. From the tile grout color to the faucet finish to the exact cabinet hardware model number. Your contractor should be able to build or renovate your project without asking you a single question with this roadmap. That's how detailed it needs to be. So, just a fun little stat. In 2023, 73 guys, of residential renovation projects went over budget. And the number one reason that was recorded for this was due to last minute finish changes. So when your contractor or their sub show up and ask, what color is this wall going to be here? Or how is this tile supposed to be? That is a clear sign that your project is flying blind. Or it's another sign that your contractors have zero respect for you and the work that you put in and the planning that you put in, allowing them to be able to do the job without you. So referring them back to the book every time or back to whatever it is that you have, your schedule, your finishes, everything in it, refer back to that. If you can't answer in 10 seconds with confidence, your contractor or that sub, you're setting yourself up for delays, change orders, and costly rework. Like I said, if you open it up for interpretation with your contractor, it's not going to be exactly what you want. We also need to start discussing the process for building a foolproof finish schedule. So, how do you actually create this great finish schedule? Here are my 6 steps to process that. I use this on every project. 1, I start early. So, meaning I always have the full and complete design ready to go before demo even starts. You need to pick out every finish, every hardware, every paint color, every single detail that goes into flipping or renovating a home or building a new construction. You need every detail out there and every detail dialed in prior to demo. This way, when your contractor needs something, it is right there and stays on schedule. It gives them zero reason to leave the job site and go take up other jobs and not being able to get to yours again in a timely manner. So you need to go room by room and surface by surface. List out every finish, every fixture and material for every room: walls, ceilings, floors, hardware, lighting, plumbing, cabinet, countertops, mirrors, even down to the bathroom accessories. So, how do I create my design templates? Now, if you go on CaitlinMortonDesign.com, I have created a handful of my personal design boards and budget spreadsheets with links. So feel free to visit if you want access to any of those. If you would like to try and create your own, here's a few good ways to use digital templates. Simply use Google Drive or a spreadsheet with columns. Have it itemized: description, SKU, vendor, quantity, ETA, installation, and all links to order. Now, what you're going to want to do with this also is in this spreadsheet, create a column that has pictures of the item for each individual item that's going in the home. You're also going to want to space it by the room. So don't space it by plumbing or by the fixture itself. You're going to want to subdivide all of your columns by room. This way, the contractor can sit there and say, okay, what goes in the kitchen? And then there's your list. It's going to be the Brizo faucet in Lux Gold and everything they need to know for installing that item, or countertops, whatever the item is. You also need to confirm lead times and order early. Perfect example. I have a client that is wanting to do checkered floors. And unfortunately, she has been bugging her husband to order this for weeks. And sadly, now the product is 8 to 10 weeks delayed on back order. Luckily, through my little skills, I was able to find the exact tile at a different vendor. But typically, you won't be able to do that because most vendors, their tile is tile specific to that location. Even though it all does come from one place, it's extremely difficult to try and figure out who the vendor is that they're using, because what happens is a lot of these tile companies rename it to their specific company, even though maybe the company's name, let's say it's Compound, is who it's coming from, but it's sold at Joe Tile Company, and they rename it as Elegant Concrete or whatever. Well, the problem is you're not going to be able to Google search for Elegant Concrete because the real name is Compound. You really want to make sure to order early and order only things that are in stock. Unless it's your own personal project and you're willing to wait, only ever order things in stock. Lead times are still extremely volatile. 56% of builders are reporting that they're having 4+ week delays on finished materials, which, as we all know, 4 weeks, depending on what your holding costs are, could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So if your contractor is ready to install tile, but your tile's on a truck somewhere in Texas, guess what? That $300 a day crew is charging you for downtime, or they're going to leave, take on another job that is ready for you. And that is going to cost you even more delays, meaning you're either going to have to find a new installer or they're not coming back till they're done with their other job, which could be months and months. So you want to make sure order early and only things that are in stock. Another great thing that you need to do is create visual boards. As we've discussed before, design boards. So we discussed creating a spreadsheet for your contractor with all of the information that everybody can have and share. Google Drive is really good for this because it's pretty easy to share individual links with different contractors. But you also want to create a visual board. A visual board is kind of like a contractor tear sheet where you want to be able to have each room individualized and everything that is going into that room, how the tile is laid, what is going to be used, grout color, the amount of tile that you're going to use, wall color, where everything goes. You want this so detailed that The room should look exactly as you're visualizing this. That's how detailed you want this. You also, alongside that, want to write a written schedule of what your expectations are for the contractor on where they need to finish this. This is going to be similar to your mood board or a photo sheet, something basically the subs have to reference to in your book that is going to help lessen any confusion on what needs to happen. You also need to create a very detailed contract for your contractor. This is so important because if something happens down the road, this enables you to go after the contractor for any damages that occurred. This also is going to help you hold their feet to the fire. I say that, but also a contract also helps the contractor hold your feet to the fire. So if you're behind, this enables them as well to say, well, this is what our contract says. So it's protection for both parties. You need to have everything written down in your contract, the schedule, what the contractor is paying for out of their pocket, what you're paying for out of your pocket. You also need to have any disagreements that are happening that in your contract, you need to have any special prep that you're expecting for them to do. Basically, this contract needs to be so detailed. It does not leave an ounce for interpretation. This way, a contractor can't say, well, yeah, I know we discussed that, but it's not in the contract. You need everything. Even if you say to the contractor, okay, so we're going to do this, this, and this, and you're going to lay this, and you're paying your guys for the flooring. I'm going to pay you a flat fee or whatever it is. You need to set your expectations up right away and leave nothing for interpretation for that contractor. Everything needs to be written down. Another thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that it is very clear to the contractor that no decisions outside of your design board or your design blueprints are only going to be confirmed by you. Any decisions that are being made outside of that blueprint needs written confirmation and approval by you and approval by the contractor. Get this written down and sign off. Document everything. Remember, in the court of law, it is not enforceable unless it is written and signed by all parties. The same thing goes for if you're trying to go after somebody at the ROC. So if you're trying to go after a contractor and report them to the ROC, they're going to require the same thing. Documentation, everything in order to force a contractor to either finish the job or reimburse you for lost wages. They're going to require every piece of documentation. The only way the ROC can go after anything is if they have documentation and if the contractor walks off the job. Never, ever fire the contractor. Let me be clear on that. When it comes to the ROC, if you fire the contractor and they don't give you your money back, you will not get it back unless you go through lengthy legal drama. Little trade secret here. If you're not happy with your contractor, get them to quit. That way you have recourse to go after them for any outstanding debt that they have of yours that they will owe you. That is the only way you'll have a chance of getting your money back. Now, that kind of leads in to staying 2 steps ahead of your contractor. Okay, so that kind of leads us into staying 2 steps ahead of your contractor, because that's also part of staying ahead of them, is always making sure that you know how to exit out of a shady contractor. If you don't know how to exit out and you just fire them, all bets are off for them. So now that you have your schedule, your boards, your spreadsheets, how do we stay ahead of the game? This is how you're going to stay ahead of the game. Contractors prioritize squeaky wheels and organized clients. If you show up prepared and proactive, your project moves up their priority list. If you're passive, you fall to the back burner. Here are my top tactics. 1, make sure to do by minimum weekly project check-ins. That's a minimum. There are times that we've gone to our projects almost every single day, especially when you have multiple subs there doing completely different things. So you want to make sure that you are setting aside 15 and 20 minutes for a phone call or site walk every single week, if not more. I actually recommend every other day if you can. Or if you have assistants, then somebody from your team needs to be there quite often. If you're doing this, your touching points prevent little issues from becoming really big ones. This allows you to catch things early on instead of down the road. Also, you're gonna want to create a master timeline. So basically, a simple calendar that keeps everyone accountable. You could do it on your Apple phone, do a shared calendar. You could do it through Google Drive, through a shared calendar, but something that basically is to say, hey, we're tracking progress. We need to stay on schedule. Where are we at? Something that holds them to the fire. It really does help move things along. Track your progress and put pressure on your contractors to hold their end of the bargain on the progress. You also need to control all material orders. Every last material needs to be ordered by you. Here's a few reasons why. 1, you ordering the materials allows you to have all of your trade accounts set up. 2, it allows you to see what you're paying. 3, helps keep you on budget. 4, it also helps prevent a contractor from saying, "What's delayed?" or, "Oh, we need more." If you go and you measure everything yourself and figure out the square footage you need for every material and every item, and the contractor comes back to you and says you need double, that's a red flag, because that means that they are potentially going to be taking your material that you paid for and using it on other jobs. That is not uncommon, guys. Contractors do this all the time. It's the easiest scam in the book for them to have you order double to triple the amount of materials that you need and have them create waste or use materials that were way over ordered, saying that they used them when really they actually took them to one of their own other personal jobs. Always order your materials yourself. Ration out those materials and don't let them know you're rationing it out. You need to tell them this is all they had, so you have to make it work. If they think they have to make it work, they will always figure out a way, because they want the money and the job done. Now, another trick, if you are the one ordering the materials, then that means you do not have to pay them a deposit up front. Deposits are meant in this world for covering the upfront of the material cost for contractors. If you're paying for all of the materials, then you can pay them either weekly, bi-weekly, or even if they want daily for the labor, because they should only at that point be charging you a labor cost, not a materials cost. So by doing that, that enables you to pay them day by day and helps lessen the overage that could happen in your budget with materials or labor. You also are going to want to do on-site material checks. So when deliveries happen, you want to be there and check every delivery and make sure that the order is exactly what you asked for with the exact amount of square footage. It is often that materials ordered are wrong, or that the paint isn't actually the paint that you wanted, or in the sheen that you wanted. The sheen happens all the time. So you really want to make sure to double check all your materials and everything that happens with deliveries. This way, you know it's ready, you've checked it, and it can be installed. Most of the time, contractors are not going to cross-reference your design board with the material that is in the room that it's supposed to be installed in. They're not going to double check. They're just going to install whatever is there. So always double check and make sure it's the right thing that is supposed to be there. Another thing that you need to do is protect your assets from shady contractors. As we all know, sadly but true, and I'm sorry to the good ones that are out there, but there's so many shady contractors that are just willing to take advantage of anybody and everybody. They just really do not care. So it's really actually quite sad because everybody at the end of the day is just trying to make a living. And the sad thing is these contractors, if they just did what they said and was within budget and honest, some of these guys would be so busy, but they just get in the way of themselves. And it's really important to know how to protect yourself from the ones that don't care about you and just care about taking advantage or stealing your money. So let's get into this, how we're protecting assets from shady contractors. So let's talk about the horror stories. GCs who vanish after a big deposit. I've seen this so many times. Okay. So let's talk about this. We've all heard the horror stories. We've all been victim to them if you've been in the industry long enough. GCs who vanish after a big deposit, bait and switch subcontractors, and endless upcharges. Contractor fraud complaints are up by 16%, guys. 16%. So, what are we needing to do to help avoid being a part or being victim to that shady contractor? So, if a GC is saying he needs 50% before even swinging a hammer, red flag, walk away. A standard deposit is anywhere from 10 to 20% to cover startup cost. 50% is way too high, and that enables the contractor to say, I'm out. I'm walking away and goodbye. You'll never see your money again unless you have to go through a lawsuit, which sometimes it's worth doing that and setting the precedent in the industry that you are not to be messed with. So what you need to do is tie payments to milestones. Your contract should clearly tie payments to project stages, not arbitrary dates. For example, pay 25% after demo, 25% after rough-ins, 25% after finishes, and final 25% at completion of punch list approval. This means you should have your C of O, everything is done, and you will never need that contractor again. Do not pay them until 100% of that project is done. This allows you to, one, motivate that contractor to stay on time because he doesn't get paid unless everything's done on time. Two, this also allows you to, if the contractor walks off the project, not be out that much money or be out only what they've done. Another thing that you're going to want to do is check and make sure that that contractor is licensed. Every state has this ability where you can go to the ROC and look up a contractor's license and make sure that their license is attached to their name and that they're not using a friend's license or somebody else's, that they have a licensed contractor on the job for all of your permitting and with the ROC. This helps hold them accountable, for one. And two, any lawsuits that happen down the road, your contractor will be liable, but they can't be liable if they are operating without a contracting license. Also, as a ROC licensed contractor, they have to provide you a 2-year warranty on their work by law. So hiring only licensed professionals can be a little bit more costly, but in the long run, you will be happy you did it. You also need to get everything in writing. I've said this before in other episodes. I've said this in this episodes, everything in writing. Verbal promises will not be done ever. Get it in writing, document it. Both people assign it and make sure you cover your butt on that. If it's not in writing, it's as if it never happened. Another thing you're going to want to make sure to do for larger projects, and a lot of hard money and lenders are going to require this for larger projects, is get builder risk insurance. If the job gets stalled or if materials go missing, you'll have a little bit of protection. It's mostly to protect the lending aspect. As I said just recently, you're going to want to vet your GC. You're going to want to check the license, make sure that his name matches with the license number. You're going to want to check references, call those references. Absolutely. You're going to want to check public records, check on their licenses. Have they been sued? What were they sued for? Do they have any complaints? Do they have any Better Business Bureau complaints? Do they have ROC complaints? Do they have a complaint currently pending on the ROC where maybe their license is paused? Do a Google search, look at their background, their history, any bankruptcy filings, liens, lawsuits, etc. Do your homework as if you are dating them. You don't just go out on a date with a guy from Tinder and not do your research. You are not going to do the same with your general contractor. You're dating them for however long that project takes. Do your research. You also want to keep receipts and photos. Documentation is gold. Document everything. You're going to want to have every receipt from that contractor. You're going to want to have before and after photos. You're going to want to have progress photos. After framing, take a picture. After rough-ins, take a picture. You're going to want to have photos of everything. And you're also going to want to make sure to have every receipt, purchase order, any penny that you spend on a job, including gas, travel fees, all of it. Keep a file of everything. If you need to prove work quality or contest a charge, this is going to be your insurance policy. It also helps you if a rogue inspector decides he wants you to do something after the house is done that was prior approved. This helps you prove to them, hey, you approved it. It was there prior to that inspection 6 months ago, and you approved it. This helps you make sure that it holds their feet to the fire too. Because sometimes inspectors will get wild hairs up their butts and decide they all of a sudden want to make you do something else because they're just in a bad mood that day. Remember, we're all people. These are just people. And so you really need to kind of hold everybody's feet to the fire and make sure that everyone is held accountable for what their position and part is within the project. Basically, what I'm saying to kind of wrap things up is you need a clear roadmap, a blueprint, or a bulletproof finish schedule. Stay ahead of your contractor. Don't overpay your contractor. Don't let your contractor bully you into paying you more than what it should be. Protect your hard-earned assets. Get everything in writing. Have proof for everything. And if need be, record every phone call. Keep every text. You want to make sure to document. Think like a lawyer. What would an attorney want you to do within this project to protect your assets and your project timeline? If you're staying ahead of your contractor and you're protecting your hard-earned assets, you will have a gold mine of a project. Remember, you are the CEO of your project. The more prepared and organized you are, the smoother things will go and the bigger your profits will be. Remember, you need to protect your project. If today's tips helped you, and if you enjoyed this episode, please take 2 seconds to leave us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and all streaming networks. It really helps more investors like you find Design to Sell. So until next time, design smart, invest wisely, and style for profit. Thanks for listening to Design to Sell. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow, rate, and share. For more tips, inspiration, and behind-the-scenes content, follow us on Instagram at Caitlin_Morton_design or visit us at www.caitlinmortondesign.com. Until next time, keep designing with purpose and selling with style.